Hi, juniors. Welcome to your iSearch mini lesson called How to Choose a Topic. We're going to start with some questions that'll guide your research. Once you've selected a topic, you're going to create a series of questions to guide your research. So you should have one main question that focuses on the big idea and at least 4 sub-questions that will lead to more specific details. I will provide you a copy of this chart to keep track of your questions, but let's look at it now. Okay, on this chart, you start in the middle with your main question, and then you're going to come up with some sub-questions. Think about things like, why do these questions matter to me, and how might knowing the answers help me in life? Think about what you already know about the questions, where you're likely to find information on the topic, and I can totally help you with that, as can your teacher, and answers to the questions. And what are some search terms? So we want to be thinking about keywords from the very beginning about ways to help you find answers to your questions. So part of that chart is making note of what you already know about your topic and what you're hoping to learn. It's also a really good idea to get feedback on your questions from peers, teachers, parents, and others, because the more feedback you get, the better your questions will be, which will help you steer your research in the right direction. All right, we're going to start with step 1, thinking about what you're passionate about. If you're a linear thinker like I am, you might want to use something like this interest inventory. It'll give you some ideas and sort of walk you through some ways to brainstorm about what you want to do your research on and some keywords to start your search. If you prefer brainstorming in sort of a web format, we have these handouts available for you as well, so you can start brainstorming this way. So you really want to generate a list of potential topics and get feedback from other people. Start broad, think broad categories, and then narrow your topic. Here's an example of how you could list some possible topics. When you're thinking about your favorite decade and why, maybe it's the 1940s because you love the clothes, it's an important historical era, and you like the music. Or maybe you want to think about an issue that you'd like to know more about. So gender equality is an example. Some topics under that umbrella would be women in sports, perceptions in the media, encouraging young women to work in STEM fields, or pay inequality, something like that. Or maybe you have a favorite country that you want to learn a lot about. So you're really into Peru and you want to learn about the mountains and the food and the llamas, or are they alpacas? After you brainstorm, take a look at your topics and evaluate them. Which ones do you know about already? Which ones are the easiest to come up with ideas for? So when I'm looking at these options, if I take a look at gender equality, there are probably going to be a lot of resources available. There are a lot of subtopics to choose from, and this could be a really good option. As far as Peru, maybe there are fewer ideas. Maybe you're less passionate about it. This seems like maybe not as strong a topic as gender equality. When we think about creating questions to guide your research, first you're going to have created and evaluated a list of topics and choose one to focus on. So for this example, we chose gender equality. And out of the subtopics, I think women in sports would be a great thing to explore in my iSearch. So the next thing I'm going to do is come up with a main question to guide my research and then 4 sub-questions to make my search more specific. So a main question could be, how are men and women treated differently in sports? And a sub-question would be, how different is their pay? Another one could be, how is advertising different? What are the social norms and expectations for the genders? And also, which sports are co-ed? Some more thoughts on topics. While you form your questions, ask yourself and record what you already know about your topic. That's really important. Think about what you want to know and why you want to know it. Remember, the more interested you are in your topic, the easier and more authentic your research will be. And if you reach a dead end in your research, just rinse and repeat. Look back at your list of topics, choose another, and form different questions. That's a natural thing that's going to happen in your research. My final note on topics is to remember to start broad and then narrow your focus. If you keep an open mind, you might end up with a topic you didn't know existed. And we have some examples of great print materials that would be good starting points. So if you're really lost and you have no idea where you want to start, you might take a look, just browse through some of the nonfiction titles that we have available, and maybe something will spark an idea from there. Thank you for your attention and happy researching.